If you've ever wondered how one quiet moment can change two lives forever, stay with me until the very end of this story, because what happens next doesn't just break a heart, it rebuilds it. And before we go any further, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. These stories take time, care, and love to tell, and your support helps keep them alive for people who need them most. The rain came down steadily that afternoon, not loud enough to demand attention, but heavy enough to soak through everything it touched. Adrian Sterling stood in silence behind the glass walls of his mansion office, overlooking the vast courtyard below. At 42, he had everything the world said mattered: wealth beyond measure, power that bent rooms when he entered, and a name that carried weight in every major city. Yet the reflection staring back at him in the window looked hollow. Another deal closed, another number added, another day survived. As he turned to leave, something unusual caught his eye. Near the servants' quarters, beneath the edge of a narrow roof, someone sat on the stone steps. Still, alone. Adrian frowned. Staff were not supposed to loiter, especially not in the rain. He leaned closer to the glass, irritation turning slowly into confusion. The figure didn't move, didn't rush for cover, just sat there, rain dripping off her hair, holding something small in her hands. It was Lena. She was one of the newest maids, young, quiet, almost invisible. Adrian had barely noticed her before, and that fact suddenly unsettled him. She sat hunched over a plastic container, eating slowly, carefully, as if each bite mattered more than the next. Rain splashed against the stone around her, soaking her uniform, yet she didn't seem to notice. Something tightened in Adrian's chest, sharp and unexpected. He didn't take an umbrella. He didn't call anyone. He walked straight into the rain, the cold water soaking through his expensive suit as if it meant nothing. When he stopped in front of her, Lena startled and quickly stood up, nearly dropping her food. "I'm sorry, sir," she said, her voice rushed and soft. "I didn't mean to. I'll go inside." "Why are you eating out here?" Adrian asked. She hesitated, eyes flicking toward the building behind her. The dining hall was crowded. "I didn't want to be in the way." "In the rain?" he asked. She shrugged slightly. "It's fine." But it wasn't fine. Not the way her hands trembled. Not the way her eyes avoided his. Not the way she flinched as if expecting to be scolded. "Come inside," he said, his voice quieter now. She followed him without another word. Inside the kitchen, warmth replaced the chill, but Lena still seemed frozen. Someone brought her a towel. Adrian watched as she dried her hair, noticing how thin she was, how carefully she folded the towel afterward, as if trying not to take up space. "How old are you?" he asked. 23, she replied. "Do you have family?" The question escaped him before he could stop it. Lena's hands stilled. "No, sir." That night, Adrian didn't sleep. The image of her eating alone in the rain refused to leave him. It reminded him of a boy he had once been, sitting on the steps of a government building after aging out of foster care, holding a sandwich he didn't want to eat because it meant admitting no one was coming for him. The next day, Adrian asked for Lena's file. What he read cracked something open inside him. Raised in foster care, multiple placements, a younger brother she'd practically raised herself. Medical debt from an illness that took him anyway. No next of kin, no safety net. Lena hadn't just been eating lunch in the rain. She had been surviving. Adrian began noticing things. How she worked longer hours without complaint. How she skipped meals. How she never spoke unless spoken to. How she sent most of her paycheck somewhere. He later learned she was paying off debts tied to her brother's care, debts she wasn't even legally responsible for. One evening, he found her in the laundry room, stitching a torn seam in her uniform by hand. "You know we can replace that," he said. She smiled faintly. "I know, but this still works." That smile, small, practiced, brave, hit him harder than any loss he had ever faced. Adrian offered help, a raise, better housing, financial support. Each time, Lena refused gently but firmly. "I appreciate it," she said, "but I need to know I can do this myself." Instead of insisting, Adrian listened. He arranged for her to attend evening classes if she wanted. He made sure food was always available without questions or judgment. He created opportunities without forcing outcomes. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, Lena changed. She stood straighter. She laughed occasionally. She began to talk about her brother, not with only sadness, but with warmth. One stormy afternoon, the power went out across the estate. Staff gathered nervously, but Lena sat by a window, calm. My brother used to say storms were the sky cleaning itself, she said quietly. Adrian felt his throat tighten. He sounds like he was special. He was, she replied. He made me brave. That was the night she cried. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough to let years of weight fall away. Adrian didn't try to fix it. He just stayed. Months passed. Lena completed her courses. Adrian quietly funded a small scholarship program in her brother's name. No press, no announcements, just purpose. And somewhere along the way, Adrian Sterling, the billionaire feared by boardrooms and headlines, became something else. A man who noticed. A man who remembered where he came from. A man who learned that power meant nothing without compassion. On the anniversary of her brother's passing, Adrian found Lena sitting on the same stone steps where he'd first seen her. This time, the sky was clear. I wanted to remember, she said, so I never forget how far I've come. He sat beside her. You didn't save me, she said. You saw me. That mattered more. Years later, when asked about his greatest investment, Adrian never named a company or a deal. He thought of a young woman eating alone in the rain, and how that moment taught him that kindness is the only wealth that multiplies when you give it away. If this story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you to look twice at the people around you, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs hope today. Because sometimes, the smallest act of compassion can change everything.